Hello and welcome to the Tiara Resource Circle. We're delighted to have all the members of the Tiara Resource Circle viewing this particular Tiara tool on community assessment. I'm Peg Rowe, one of the managing partners for Tiara, and I'm excited to share this tool with you today. So let's get started. So first of all, I just want to mention that this whole idea of community is a really important distinction. It's one of the key Tiara distinctions. We define community as building relationships both authentically and intentionally to expand your influence. So community is really essential because we actually can't accomplish our biggest goals and highest visions on our own. We really do need community. So what I'm going to ask you to do right now, if you haven't already, is to download the Tiara tool. You can complete the tool as I share the directions throughout the video. And when you're viewing the video, just pause when you need an opportunity to record your answers, and then you can come back to the video. So to get us started, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that we can look at the tool together. Pull that over a little bit. There we go. So you can see actually I'm looking at the very top of the Tiara tool that we have influence over here. That's one of the three dimensions of the Tiara model. And community is right here. It's one of the key Tiara distinctions, as I mentioned. And here you see it says, community is an essential part of leadership. Giving and receiving is an integral part of power and influence. So if you want to go ahead and record your name and date, some of you may recognize this tool and realize that you completed it before, but I encourage you to do it again. It's one of those tools that it's good to do every so often and just take stock of where are we with our various communities. I'll give you a moment to do that. All right, now the first thing we're going to do in this tool is on the left-hand side, I'm going to have you write down all the communities that you're engaged in, that you have an interest in, that you spend time with. Some of these communities, may just be part of the makeup of the communities in your natural communities, like your family. You really don't have much of a choice. Family is part of your community network. But other communities, like your friends, are communities that you choose. So go ahead and complete the left-hand side of the column. I'll pause for a moment. You can pause the video and come back as soon as you're done, and then we'll complete the rest of this. Okay, so now we're in the next phase of mini assessment of your current state of your community. So you've got your communities on the left-hand side, and then in the two middle columns, you're going to do an approximation, just really pause and reflect and consider what percentage of the time are you giving to the community? What percentage of the time are you receiving? Now, there's no right or wrong answer here. It's not a mathematical equation. It doesn't have to add up to anything in particular. It just helps to increase our awareness. It's another way of looking at community in a way that helps us stand back and then be able to assess where are we with these communities. So you can go ahead and record your percent that you give and the percent that you receive, and then write down what that means. What do you have that mean? What do you make it mean to you? So I'll do a little example here. So let's say for family, if you were completing this, that you decided that you were spending 80% of your time, 80% that you give, and that you're receiving 40%. And what you have that mean is that you're tired. Like you're doing a lot of giving and not getting much receiving in return. And so maybe you decide that that makes you feel tired. Maybe it makes you feel a little frustrated at times. So you can go ahead and record that. And maybe for friends, maybe your percent giving is 25%. And you realize that you're actually receiving 60% back from your friends. And that may have you mean simply that your friends are very generous, or you might decide that you feel a bit guilty about that, like you're not doing your part. So I'm going to pause here. Go ahead and pause the video and complete for all of your different communities, what's the percent that you're giving and what's the percent that you're receiving, and what are you making that mean? Now look at your overall assessment and just kind of take it all in. On your communities, which ones are you feeling particularly good about? Which ones does it feel like, whatever the percentage is, not that it's even, but that it feels good, that in the long run that feels good and you feel good about, how you're contributing to that community and what you're receiving in return. And then look and see, are there any communities where it may feel like maybe not so good? Maybe it's a little out of balance, or maybe you decide that you aren't spending as much time in that community as you would like. Just get kind of an overall assessment of how you're feeling in those communities. So take it all in, so you get a real sense of this current state of your communities. Where are you today? How are you doing with those communities? How are you feeling about how things are going with those communities, and what are you making that mean? And the meaning is all just entirely what you're making it mean. It doesn't mean that anyone else is making it mean the same thing. It's just whatever it is that you're determining for yourself. All right, so now that we have that, let's move on to page number 2. And now we're going to take a slightly different track, and we're actually going to look at, how do you want to design your communities? What is the future state of your communities? How would you like those to look? So again, on the far left-hand side, go ahead and record the communities that you would have in your desired state of your communities. And that means that some of them may carry over from page 1. Page 1 and page 2 look very similar. And others may be communities that you might choose that you want to add. So you'll see here that family and friends and colleagues and volunteering returned from the first page, they carried over. But in this example, there's a new one called Hiking Club. So, as an example, this person may have decided, oh, I really want to expand my communities. I'm ready to do something new, to meet some new people, and to create a new community for myself. So I'm going to add a hiking club there. So again, just like we did for the first one, write all those communities down that you desire to have in this future state. And you can go ahead and pause the video and fill that out, and then come back and we'll complete it. So the next place we're going to go, again, just like we did on page 1, is the percent that you anticipate that you'll give and the percent that you'll anticipate that you receive. What would feel ideal in your next set of communities? What do you desire in this future state of your communities? So maybe you might decide that you want for family to feel like it's 100% that you're giving and 100% that you're receiving. And that would mean that, everybody is feeling good and connected. And then maybe for friends, you might decide that you're going to increase that amount over what it was, and you might decide that you want to be giving at least 50%, and that you would still want to be receiving 60%. And what that would mean is that you're valuing this set of relationships. Oh, I didn't spell value in right. Sorry about that. There we go. So go ahead and complete the percent give and the percent receive, and then what you have that mean. So you can pause the video while you do that. Now, once you've completed this part of page 2, again, step back a little bit and take a look and see, what are the insights and observations that you have about the state of your communities? What do you want for this future state to look like? What feels like it would be ideal? What feels like it would be fulfilling for you and feel rewarding in terms of what's happening with the people that you're surrounded with in your communities? This whole question of giving and receiving can often feel a little tricky. So some of us happen to bias toward really liking to give. And so we give a lot. And that feels really good. And sometimes we may feel like if we receive a lot, that it's kind of selfish. And I think that we want to remember that there is joy in giving and there is joy in receiving. So as much as you may love to give, other people love to give as well. And they're happy to give and they want you to be able to receive their gift with joy. So when you consider your communities, consider this sort of sense of generosity, like how are you generous on both sides of that equation? Because it really is the opportunity to both give and receive and take a lot of satisfaction and fulfillment in the opportunity to both give and receive. So now that you've completed this part of page 2, let's go down to these questions below. Now, one of the things that you might have decided, like I did in this example, is that there was a community that you wanted to shift, that you wanted to actually increase what you were giving. So there's some questions here to help us think through how do we go about making that kind of a shift? You know, what would we do that would allow us to be able to make that kind of a shift and have it feel good? So go ahead and we'll answer these questions as we go along. And these are questions that you can then take with you and look at, you know, after we complete the video. But one of the first questions is, what do you need to let go of? I'm going to pull my notes here. So I wrote a couple of notes about that. So for example, if I wanted to increase the amount of time, the percentage of giving that I was doing with my friends, then I know for me, one of the things I would have to let go of is that feeling of guilt, like I hadn't been doing my part, I hadn't been doing enough. And maybe even a little embarrassment, like maybe I hadn't really kept up my half of the bargain and I wasn't reaching out and I wasn't being inclusive and I wasn't bringing people along. So I need to let go of that so that I could actually re-engage with that community. So this is a good place to pause and pause the video and just write down, what would you need to let go of in this particular community that you've decided you're going to focus on shifting? What do you need to let go of? And now we'll go on to the next question. So once you've decided what you need to let go of, then what do you need to communicate and who needs to hear your communication? So if I were increasing what was going on with my friends, you know, I might decide that I needed to actually reach out, let them know that I value our friendship and make sure they knew that I was, you know, happy to be re-engaging and that I was really looking forward to engaging with them more in the future. And it would be important for them to hear that. It doesn't, you know, it's not even so much that I need to know it myself as much as I need to make sure that they know that as well. So again, pause the video, answer that question. Now, once you have that answered, what practically needs to be handled to make this shift? Yeah, so for me, if I were going to increase the amount of time that I'm spending with my friends, I know one of the things I would need to do is actually be intentional about it. So that would mean scheduling some time on my calendar, making sure that I was reaching out with emails or text messages or phone calls and connecting with them. So I really want to not just leave it up to sort of a haphazard thing, but I would actually want to make an effort to get that on my calendar in a way that I could make time for it and make sure that I was fulfilling on that intention. So again, pause the video and go ahead and complete that particular question. Now let's go on to the next question. What do you need to focus on what do you need to focus on to keep moving toward the future vision? So if this is a future vision and the ideal vision of how you want your communities to look, then what is it that you want to keep in the forefront? What do you want to be thinking about? What is it that you want to make sure that you're reminding yourself? What's the why here? So for me, the focus would be on the joy I experience when I'm with this community. So if I'm wanting to increase the amount of time I spend with my friends, just want to keep in mind, like, I really enjoy these people. I enjoy spending time with them. We have a long history together, and it would be great to be spending more time with them again. So stop the video if you need to, make a few notes. All right, so here's one of my favorite questions in this list. Where do you need to be brave? So sometimes we have to muster up some courage in order to make that shift. So for me, it would be I need to, pick pick up and set the intention, make it a priority. So I really need to get beyond just, yeah, that's a good idea, and actually be brave about reaching out, having the conversations, making sure that I'm making time, making sure that I'm making the effort to be with this group of friends that I want to re-engage with. And then the last question is a really important one, and that's the one that we want you to take away today. And that's, what's the inspired action you're going to take, and when will you take it? So if there's anything we can leave you with on most of our TIARA tools, is how do you get into action? So for me, that taking action, inspired action, would look like putting time on my calendar and reaching out, and I would set a deadline for doing that by the end of next week. So it doesn't have to be a big step. It could be a small step, but just move yourself into action. Take inspired action to move towards the thing that you want, what this vision is of the joy that you want to experience in being with that particular group, whatever that looks like, for the community that you're looking to make a shift with. So this is a really, I think, interesting and fun assessment to do, and to do it on maybe once a year. Just reassess, where am I with my communities? How am I engaging with them? What feels important? What do I want to spend more time on? What's a community I value that I want to invest more time in? What's a community that maybe for this coming year I'm going to spend less time in? I was on a board a few years ago, and one of the things that I knew is that the year that I was no longer on the board was going to free up time, because I wouldn't be spending as much time with that organization. I would go to meetings and participate, but I wouldn't have all of the commitments I had as a board member. So that allowed me to go back and reassess, well, where do I want to spend my time with my communities? If I'm going to spend less time because I won't be on that board, how else do I want to spend that? Where do I want to invest my community time in other communities that I value as well? So make this a valuable exercise for yourself. Take an inspired action and engage with communities in ways that feel really, really good. It will actually help you to spread your influence and get those big goals and that big vision that you have accomplished over time. Thank you so much for listening to this video. Thank you so much for being part of the TIARA Resource Circle. We value your participation and look forward to having you at upcoming events. Bye-bye now.